I think what he meant was, why is censorship not being used against Julius Malema to prevent him from mobilizing numbers on media for things like nation? Not. And my brother, you were very much wrong to ask about his assassination. Why must he be assassinated by Boma ANC and whatnot just because he's fighting against Cyril Ramaphosa? Thank you.
Third question.
My question is ricocheting off of what was asked by Kujo Mamabolo, right? When he spoke of the fact that things like newspapers are now, even for him as an individual, are going out of fashion. How do we now, as a media student myself, do I now use my media degree to cater to people who do not want to read? In other words, you use the ideology of even though you have a microwave, you don't throw away the use of your oven. But how do I now cater to people who only want to eat microwavable meals and don't want to eat food from the oven when I have been taught to cook from an oven?
Prof.
Okay. It's up to you whether you want quality or quantity in your career. Right? So if you want quality, you go for quality. The reason I used microwave and oven is because we are too much in an instant world. Part of why we have so much corruption is because people want instant things. They want to wake up, leave university and start driving a BMW. Whereas if you say to them, no, come and do the job, start from the scratch, start as an intern, then they look down on that because they want a microwave. They don't want to work hard to earn everything that they are about. In your career, if you are in media, for example, or communications, at some point you are going to be, let's say, the editor of a newspaper, right? If you are editor, it means that the writers and the opinion makers report to you. How can you supervise them if you yourself have never been a writer who's getting paid 150 a word? You want to start by earning 2 million as an editor. Doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that at all. You're going to have to start from the bottom, and that's why I'm encouraging you to start while you are still on campus. Right? That way, it would be automatic for you to give people what's from the oven of your experiences instead of a microwave, so that they can feel better about in not reading newspapers of white monopoly capital and whatever ideological things you can throw about. Those ideological things don't work in the real world. When you get out there, you're going to be faced with a tough reality of finding a job where you can earn and rise up the ranks. When you take a shortcut, it's going to catch up with you. Any shortcut eventually will catch up with you. Sense of what my English teacher said here in this place, that the lie will go around the world while the truth is still putting its boots on. So no shortcut, there's no way around it. You're going to have to work hard and slog it out, right? So I've talked about the media side. If you are in communication and you become head of communications, and I've been head of communication in many companies, I can do the work of all the people on my team. That's why they can't fool me when they bring half-baked work to me. How will I know if I've never been at the bottom of the rank that these people are not doing the right thing? How will I coach others? How will I mentor others in my team if I've never done that work? I woke up and suddenly, because of affirmative action, I'm now the head of comms. Doesn't work like that. So I hope that helps you to understand that we're not saying that microwave doesn't matter. Sometimes you want to wake up quickly and do a cup of coffee, put it in the microwave and you drink. But it's not the same quality as filter coffee that's been boiling there all morning. I hope those straightforward and stand, right? There's no shortcut. Let me deal with a question about the issue about Julius Malema and proper. Julius Malema is not censored by anybody. In fact, the media gives him way more attention. He can call a press conference now, they'll be full, and he'll talk all day. Half of the TV stations will take him live, and there's no shortage of propaganda or a shortage of attention from Julius Malema. I like him very much, but I've got a lot of time for him. He's not censored by anyone. You can't censor him even if you tried. If anything, he censored us as ENC. He says he doesn't want to talk to us. He's not talked to us for years. He censored us. You know, the other day, I interviewed him on Radio 702 for about an hour. And when he left, I said, but what will it take, man, for you to come back to ENC? He says, no, just apologize and say sorry. You know? I said, okay, I'll apologize in my next show. He says, no, not you. Those white people there must apologize. Then we'll come back to ENC. So I'm not worried about that. I think the EFF is doing a great job. As an opposition party, they must do what they're supposed to do. I'm very irritated by the fact that the debate last week was a EFF successful shutdown. You talked about it for 3 weeks. I don't know what success you want on propaganda. The whole country, every media, every newspaper was talking about the shutdown for more than 3 weeks. What else do you want? If a political party, all you want is your propaganda to be out there, and it was there for 3 weeks for everyone to see. If you are Mbalula and say it was not successful, you are believing your own propaganda. And that doesn't work with me. Right? Now, ideology. So, when I was 14 years old, sorry. Oh, is it sabotage? I didn't know that happens. Okay. I believe that we've got to have an ideology of action. I can come here. By the way, I studied philosophy up to 3rd year when I was here as a major. I don't need to prove myself about the ideological mumbo jumbo. What this country needs, you taking as a person. You can have as many ideologies as you like, but if you can't tell me in your 50s that you have taken 1 person to school, just one, not many, with your own money, instead of pouring into the street to say, no, we need free education, that's fine, but when you start working, have you taken 1 person to school yourself? Have you mentored 1 person who's another black person? Right? Have you donated even a slice of bread to your neighbor who's starving next door? If you can't tell me those things, but you can tell me about, you can recite, I read what I like, from page 1 to page, that's useless. And that's part of the problem in South Africa, that we like theory. That why there's a failure and there are so many people unemployed and what, it's because we love theory. We don't take that ideological consciousness and implement it in our lives. You find people there at Cubana. I don't know whether there's Cubana here in Puluwan, but in Gauteng or in Free State, there's something called Cubana. And a couple of people, 2 or 3 people are having a dinner on a Friday, and they spend 70,000 rand or even more in one bill, one night. Yeah, 70,000. They even take a photo of the bill that shows that they've paid 70,000 rand. Ask any of those people there that your next door neighbor whose kid can't go to school because they don't have a registration fee of 3,000. Have you ever donated? And it will be shocking if you found even 20% of people who spend their money that way, spending it on other people. But we've asked them ideology, they can write a full paper about black consciousness and what. But in their lives, they don't exercise it. There are those who even have children who they don't maintain. But they know ideology, man. They'll tell you a big thing about ideology. My ideology is simple. Brighten the corner where you are. And then you can come and talk to me about ideology. Each of us, if each of us just help 1%, we would not have so many people who are destitute in this country, who are sleeping under bridges, who are sleeping with hunger. And if we can just match our ideology with practice, we'll have a better country. What have I done in media situation? Well, I train media. I run master classes both here and in other countries. I've run master classes in Namibia. I've run master classes in Botswana, where I, engage with media practitioners, journalists, like I'm engaging with you tonight. That's the contribution I think I can make, right? Quite apart from writing extensively to try and make sure that the ideological consciousness you say doesn't exist in media. At least I make a contribution. I can't account for ideologically blank journalists who don't understand black consciousness or anything for that matter. Right? So if you want to know more of what I have done, it's all there in public in terms of what one can unashamedly call thought leadership. People will have to take note whether they like what I'm saying or they don't like it. But what I hate is people who drown themselves in ideology but do nothing. They don't contribute to their community. They've never even been to a schoolyard. Or no, this school is dirty, let's do something. They don't go to church or contribute there. And I'm not saying everybody must go to church, but even if they are in church, they are one of these congregants who run away. We're the meeting, they're out the door first. They are the first people who are out. And they have run off. They don't attend school governing body meetings and what have you. We've got to stop with the theories. This country needs work to be done. We can take one more, I suppose. Oh. Inner voice. What is your purpose? For somebody here, their purpose may be to be a teacher, to teach kids. Who's going to teach your kids? If all of you want a glamorous job somewhere, far away from something like being a teacher. Right? Oh, by the way, Victoria was a teacher of primary schools and high schools, and then decided to do a B.Ed. It was not a glamorous thing at the time, but he's probably one of the big mentors of our time in terms of mentoring young people in doing certain things. And that links to this issue about political consciousness. What is political consciousness? Must somebody be able to rattle off, I read what I write what I like, from page 1 to the last page. That's not necessarily the consciousness we're talking about. It will help if you read Biko and stop the black self-hatred. Especially if you are studying at a university like this with a history of the Abraham Tiros of this world who died for just speaking out. So this is the home of consciousness. If you are here but you're not politically conscious, you probably are lost. So I don't need to have a long lecture about you being politically conscious. But it doesn't mean that your activism must be confined to party politics, because that would be narrow. Your consciousness must exist everywhere. Even if you are in a Murabarava team or chess club, you must still have consciousness. Right? Activists, in our time, I remember that there was a trip to Cape Town where people, just chowed the money that was supposed to be used for supporting people to go to Cape Town. It means that those people are activists, but they are not politically conscious. That's why they think they can take the money of SRC and use it for their own pockets. Right? So the issue of political conscience is quite key. I think that we need to encourage each other to remove black self-hatred. And part of that is what I've talked about earlier. Just read. Read anything you come across, but also select things that will enhance your consciousness when you read them. And this could be from religious to philosophical to mainstream things that you just broaden your mind. Right? And that's how consciousness is born. Consciousness can never be born out of ignorance. A person who goes up and down, they can't tell you when last they read anything constructive. They think they are on Facebook all day, they have read. You haven't read anything. It's just the gossip. It's like standing at the bus stop and listening to people talking about their problems. That's not going to deepen your consciousness. Right? What was the third question? Affirmative action. All right, so I always separate policy articulations from policy implementation. I don't have to tell you that we have failed in this country to implement many policies, but equally, we have failed to identify where are the problems with some of those policies. Some of those policies have no problem at all. They just don't have champions. Part of why affirmative action has not been implemented in corporate South Africa is that there are fewer and fewer champions every day. Secondly, there is poor implementation of oversight by government. You know, there's a fellow who used to be called Jimmy Manyi. He's now called Mzwanele now. Maybe consciousness has visited him. He's calling himself Mzwanele now. Mzwanele used to be the chairperson of something called the Employment Equity Commission. And one of the things that I remember about him was that every year he produced a report, obviously through his commission, which named and shamed people who were refusing to change. And companies used to run. When the time comes, they run to make sure that they are compliant. Right? And you can say what you like about, transformation is about substituting black with white. Yes, it must be substituted. We can't have a lily white corporate and try to redefine transformation to be something else. Obviously, transformation is not only about changing white to black. If you look at the BEE legislation, it covers a range of things. It covers a range from who owns the company to who runs the company, who's hired in the company, who does the company spend money on skilling, who does the company spend money on procuring, who does the company spend money on corporate social investment. It's a range of things. But when people say BES fail, say, look at Tokyo Sohale and so on, they own 25%. Yeah, fine. That you need to be broad, and that's why you have something called broad-based BEE. Right? And then you talk about employment equity as a separate pillar. You talk about employment equity, you talk about procurement and so on. When all these things are supervised, to for lack of a better word, by a government that is activist itself, corporates will follow. Right now, corporates are just laughing to say, these guys don't know what they are doing, we're not going to bother. Yet in 2007, when the codes of good practice were put in place, corporates were running helter-skelter. They even had what you call transformation offices, where they actually hired people specifically to develop transformation plans because they knew Jimmy Manyi was coming with a big stick to say, hey, how far are you? Right? And of course, some of them also crook the system. They would hire somebody to make sure that they are level 1, even if there's no single black person in their company. I don't know how they did that, but but at least there was an effort to do something because they felt that the times are changing. We now have a new government, and we can no longer have an economy that only belongs to white people. The economy must belong to all. So we need a government that can revisit that transformation agenda. These ones are tired, Baba. But 30 years, ANC. They're tired. They're tired, Shem. They're tired. You understand? But we keep voting them once again, and then we complain that, no, there's no transformation. But yet we vote the same people who have failed for 30 years. After 30 years, you must take a break, man, and try something else. But anyway, let me not go into politics. All I'm saying to you is very few policies you can fault in the Constitution and so on. It's the implementation of it that attracts a lot of poverty. And we need to change that. So I hope when you go out there to work and so on, you carry that consciousness into your workplace and not be one of those people who say, hey, nah, I would rather not say anything in those meetings. Okay, Batanguba. Okay, we can take one more round.
Thank you. Thank you.
Time up, time up.
How do you get people to tell the truth? I don't have a magic formula, but and I would like